hello to my viewers. Big hello to Lassane and Bex for being the first ones in. How are you doing? And hello to my viewers. Big hello. I always forget something. In this case, I forgot to mute my own Twitch stream, so that was being broadcast also. But I think anyone who watches the Palaver with any regularity knows how unprofessional and off the cuff this is, and that's one of the things that's great about it. One of the other things that's great about Rhevs Palaver is I'm trying to branch out and make new friends and meet new people. I was lucky enough last week to talk with Lassane, and this week I am lucky enough to talk with Raine. Raine goes by RaineKugami on Twitch, on Twitter, I believe also Instagram, some other places, but we're just going to go with Raine right now. So how's it going today, Raine?
Doing well. How about you?
You know, pretty good. I had a very busy day. I was trying to get a lot of work done, but it's nice to just be able to sit back at the computer, relax, and get some streaming on.
Right.
You just got home from work shortly before Skype called you in, right?
Yeah, not too long ago, like maybe an hour or so ago.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you. I'm gonna be honest. When I was I think it was Tuesday when I contacted you. What I did is I went into the Team MC Discord and I was lurking and I was watching people talk and then I was checking out their channels without saying anything and I was like, let's see who's active. Let's see, and I went and looked at your channel and you're relatively new, right, to Twitch?
Well, yes and no. Like I made my account like 2 years ago, and actually it's my 2-year anniversary, like I think last Friday. But I didn't start. Thank you. But I didn't start actively streaming until like last October. So I'm still kind of new, kind of not really new. So I'm in that little cusp there.
Well, I think it is a darn shame. I went back and watched a lot of your VODs, and I was able to catch your stream once the other night.
Yeah.
You're a fantastic artist, first of all.
Thank you.
Coming from someone with no artistic talent whatsoever, I think it's fantastic whenever I can catch a creative streamer doing, artistic.
Right.
Oh my God! Can you give me 1 sec? Why don't you tell the podcast a little bit about what you do in terms of creative streaming while I fix something I screwed up.
Okay, cool. Well, basically with my creatives, it's like really chill. Usually they turn into mostly Q&As, and it's just usually me kind of in my zone, just drawing whatever comes to mind. I may be doing a banner for somebody. I may be doing, just doodling. I may just be working on something in general. I do want to get into comics at one point, so I may stream that. I don't know. But usually they're just very chill. They're usually on the weekends because I love to relax on the weekends, and that is the best way for me to relax is just to draw because it clears my mind, and to have people there kind of chatting is just awesome. That's why I love Twitch for including that.
I agree. I'm an older gentleman, as you can probably tell from all the gray. I always said that streaming on Twitch for me is like, it takes me back to my childhood when I'd sit on the couch with my friends and play video games.
Right.
You'd be like, no, jump on that shell. And, it's a level of interactivity.
Yeah.
So, one of the other things that I noticed about your stream, which I am jealous of, by the way, to everyone watching right now, you should absolutely follow Raine just to check out his channel when he's live. But dude, your chat function, like right now, anyone who's watching can see my Twitch chat is appearing, over here, and it's just scrolling. But yours is amazing. And can you tell everyone why it is? I think it's so. I mean, obviously you know why. It's because and like what's so awesome about it?
Okay, well, what he's referring to is like in my chat, like how you have it kind of scrolling on the screen. The way I have my windows set up is if anyone plays like Final Fantasy, like the older Final Fantasy, they know that signature blue background with the white border. I incorporated that into it because for one thing, I love Final Fantasy. Like that's my favorite series of video games of all time, and I just had to put the little twist in there. It took forever to set up, but it came out great, and I love it. And I'm actually amazed because no one else has called me out on it. Like they just think it's like a background. Like, okay, so when you said it's like, oh my god, it's like, is that the Final Fantasy? Yeah, like, yeah. After all these months, someone finally caught on to it. So big kudos to you on that, man.
I mean, well, you do a lot of when you're not doing creative, you do a lot of retro streaming, like playing
Right.
these older video games, which I love. They're some of my favorite games, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I absolutely caught that. I just want to real quick. Bex, Darth Bex asks in chat. She goes, "Do you have a DeviantArt page as well? Do you post your art on DeviantArt?"
I do occasionally. It's mostly stuff that's either on my Instagram and on my like my relative Twitch channel, but it's also my name, so it's RaineKugami. You know, at the DeviantArt link. I'm not too sure how to link it, but it's on there. But I don't post a lot there. But I mean, if it's interesting, I may just start posting it there too, instead of just Instagram or instead of just like the random Twitter
Mm-hmm.
posts. So if there's interest in it, you know.
And you know what? Actually, why don't we take a minute and show the viewers some of the awesome? And again, I'm always super impressed with anyone who has any artistic talent whatsoever. I like to muddle in Photoshop, but I'm the hack. So the first one I wanted to show was this banner image that you did for user Ursa Singer,
Uh-huh.
and so like what's going on there, man? It's got like a guy at a turntable
Oh,
and a
well,
bear.
yeah, I love it. Okay, basically, Ursaringa, he's like one of my good regulars. Like we actually become good friends through Twitch. But he wanted a banner because he does music on YouTube, and he finally kind of got to his subscriber goal, and he wanted a banner to celebrate that. And he loves the Pokemon Ursaring, but if anyone who plays Pokemon knows, like there's no Mega form, so like Ursaring is just basically a brown bear. So he wanted to get me to do a Mega form of the Pokemon, with him kind of doing the Beautiful Joe pose. I don't know if anybody knows what that game is. Maybe. Right. Yeah. The Beautiful Joe pose with kind of like the Mega Stone watch from Pokemon, like kind of on his wrist. So, and then to incorporate his music into it somehow. So like we had him at a turntable. We got the other Pokemon there with the headphones on, kind of rocking out to wherever he's jamming to, and just have like a Ursa ring. Like he was actually in chat with me, kind of describing like, well, I wanted to be like this, and like that, and like that, and like as we were in voice chat, I was just kind of just drawing it out for him, and he was like, "Man, I love it." And it's one of my favorite actual pieces I've done on stream actually.
And Bex also pointed out that she was impressed with. I don't know if you're actually watching the Twitch stream, if you see the chat or not, but Bex pointed
Yeah.
out that you actually even incorporated the constellation Ursa right on into the image as well.
Right, and I'm glad you caught that because it's like a subtle thing I did that I didn't think a lot of people would get, but I'm glad that people are catching on to it.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you here. I didn't catch it. If Bex
Okay,
hadn't
like I
said
said,
it,
it's subtle, so just you
yeah,
know.
if Bex hadn't said it, I might not have noticed. But yeah, I think that's really cool. You know what? I feel so dumb. I didn't even look on your Twitch page. Do you have custom art on your banner up top?
Yeah. I do.
I should have thought to look at that.
Yeah, it's basically me on a couch with like another Pokemon, Umbreon. It's my favorite Pokemon. So it's like he's just kind of sitting on the couch with me. I have my hand kind of petting his head, and just have like some gradient, well, not really gradients, but like tile art in the background.
All
So
right. Well, let's take a look at. I pulled up a second one too, just to show people, some of your art here. So the second one is Miss Devil's Gaming, and I also got a chance to look at some of your work in progress on this, and you really did a great job on it.
I appreciate it.
So I'm guessing this is another one of your viewers, or is this a commission?
It was not really a commission, but she was a relatively new streamer and she was needing some art. And occasionally, I feel generous. I like to help people out because, I don't know a lot about Twitch and I had people helping me out. So I like to share the wealth.
Mm-hmm.
So she was needing some new art. And I just even messaged her. She was she couldn't really pay. So I was like, you know what, I'll just take care of it. And she told me what she wanted. I had her to kind of like, she wasn't in chat with me doing it, but I did this on stream. I was kind of messaging her in Discord as I was doing it. So like, do you like this? Do you like that? and she loved it. But I don't think she uses it anymore. I think she kind of got some more official art, but it was again a fun commission for me. Well, not commission, but
Right.
project
Yeah.
of love.
Free commission.
There you go. There you go.
I do, as I mentioned, I do a lot of creative streaming on Photoshop, and I do things like my overlays and things like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've got a couple people that have asked me for things. I've never charged anyone for anything. But so this Miss Devil's Gaming, I think one of the things that I didn't even recognize at first, but I saw after pulling it up here, you even very subtly incorporated the square, triangle, circle, and X.
Yeah. Again, another subtle thing. Like she didn't even. I don't even think she noticed it at first until I kind of pointed out. Like it even like did the PlayStation, controls the circle, the X, the triangle, and but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so that's really cool. That even says right there, hey, PlayStation gamer.
Right, and she was specific. She said I wanted a PS4 controller, so obviously she's a PS4 gamer. So,
right.
Dude, just incorporate that kind of subtle nod to it.
It's very cool. I mean, how long does something like that take you? Like the Miss Devil's one take you?
Yeah, it can vary because usually I'll spend like an hour or two like on the rough sketch, and then I will scan it into my program, which I use I use a couple of them, but my art program. I'll scan it in there into there. I'll tighten up the lines, which maybe takes me an hour or so. After that, the coloring, like the flats, maybe like another hour, but it can vary though. Because I think that particular piece took me about 4 hours, roughly. I can't really remember because, like I said, time flies when I do it because I don't really notice the time. Like I'll look up, oh, it's 12 o'clock. It was the time for me to get off. But I think I did that maybe like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, and when I stopped in on your stream the other day, you were drawing Tifa from Final Fantasy,
right?
And you were playing music, and that's time can fly when you're just listening to music and just kind of in the zone.
Yeah, and that's usually how my creator streams are like it's music playing, it's chill, people are chatting, and it's just a good time. And again, time flies because when I was doing the Ursa Ranger one, I think we didn't get done until like almost 1 a.m. in the morning. Like it was just that much fun. We was like joking the whole time and everything, and it was really engaging. I loved it.
So, and I apologize if you've got anything you want to ask me, please. I don't mean to sound like I'm just rapid fire interviewing. This is just.
It's cool. It's cool. Like now, I know you stream, but like, what exactly do you all stream?
Me personally, I'm a variety streamer. So the only thing I schedule is 8 o'clock Monday nights, Rhevs Palaver podcast. Right. And lately, I've been getting in the habit of starting around noon in Eastern time. I know you're an hour behind me.
Right.
It's going from about noon till about 4:30, which is when my wife gets home from work. So that seems to work out well. And I usually don't do much on the weekends because I'm married man and I have a home.
Right.
And there's always something to fix when you have a home. So
very true.
This past weekend it was outdoor time. We just spent all weekend working on unwinterizing the front yard and working on the backyard and getting the garden going. And
yeah, leaves and renter for life. I see
mirrors.
Mirrors. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It is the one benefit of renting.
Dude, I was actually just having a conversation with someone not too long ago on stream, and I said, there are several economists after the housing bubble burst that said you can actually save a lot more money and make a lot more money by renting if you find it. One, a place that you can afford. Two, that has a decent landlord that takes care of upkeep, and three, that you can get a long-term lease. The amount that you'd save on things like home repairs and so on and so forth would equal more money.
For itself, yeah, it kind of pays for itself out there the first couple years or so.
Yeah, and it was like, oh no, if you own a house, then you're building equity. It's like, yeah, but how much equity are you building versus how much are you saving?
Right.
I absolutely miss being a renter when it's time to mow the gigantic field that is my back lawn. Like,
yeah, it brings me back to my younger days when we had to get out and do that. I hated it so much.
When we bought this house, see, I'm a city boy. I grew up in Buffalo, New York, which is the second biggest city in New York behind New York
Right,
City.
right.
So I grew up in the city. I mean, our lawns were small, and so no big deal. When we bought this, my backyard is like, I don't know, I want to say over a quarter of an acre. And my wife, who I moved out to where my wife lives. When I met her, I moved out here, and this is out in the country now. And she goes, "Oh, it's got such a small backyard." And I'm like,
Like seriously?
"Yeah,
Like you don't see that?
yeah." So I begged her, "Can we please get a riding lawnmower? This is going to take forever to mow with a push mower." "No, we don't need it. It's such a small yard," she says. So we made the agreement. I would do the front and side yards. She would do the backyard, which is the biggest of the
Right.
3 yards. Thank God I made that agreement with her, because there have been a couple times when I've done all 3 yards, and it's such a pain in the ass.
I can feel you on that. Like, especially when it's like super hot out, because it's about to be the summer season.
Beck says, "I'm trying to find a new apartment. It's stressful as fuck." Haven't you
It
only
really
been there
is.
for like 6 months, Bex? I mean, you're finding a new place already? And don't forget, you have to find a place that your kitty approves of, because keeping our fur babies happy is very important. So, I want to get back to the drawing for a second, Rain. So you mentioned
sure.
you've got a couple different programs and hardware that you oh, there have been break-ins. Oh, that's terrible. I'm
Oh
sorry to hear that,
wow.
Bex. You mentioned that you have different programs and different software and hardware that you use. Can you tell us a little bit about your setup and like the process?
Oh sure. Well, I mainly use a graphics tablet. That I just recently got it. It's a Huon 1060 plus this year. It's kind of really good for more so for my desktop setup. I do use a Android tablet, also a Galaxy Note 4. Just like when I want to play, like draw in my room or something like that, and I just import it over to my desktop. But as far as like streaming software, use of course Photoshop CS6, which is the standard. I also use Sketchbook for the Galaxy, which is the mobile version of the desktop. Well, the desktop app, should I say? And the last one I use is Medibang Pro, which is a free, totally free, kind of like a Manga Studio-esque type app. This is usually what you see me draw in if I'm doing a creative on the stream. It's usually the program I use, and it's very, very good. It's, again, free. It works almost just like Manga Studio because I have that also, but I don't use it because I've gotten so used to that, and they're basically the same thing.
Can I tell you something? So years and years, I started out when I started kind of hacking around with Photoshop. I started out with some free thing. I think, everyone who starts out with doing anything on computers, they start with like Paint Shop Pro or,
Right.
something they get for free. And I will admit that for a little while, I used a pirated copy of a very early version 4. I mean, we're talking 15 plus years ago. So
Right.
and then when I got a new computer, they were offering a Photoshop license for $100, and it's
Right.
Photoshop Elements, which is like a
Okay,
stripped down version. And I've been using that for 10 plus years now.
It works.
Yeah,
Trust me.
I mean, especially for what I do. I'm not a professional, artist. A lot of what I do is just moving images around on a screen until it looks right.
Got you. Photo editing, basically.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
everything that you see on my stream now, is 100% something I created from scratch in Photoshop, with the exception for the font, which is royalty-free font,
Right,
and
yeah.
the background image that's behind the hexes on my screen. That
Yeah.
was done by a friend of mine, and he gave me permission to use it.
Well, it looks amazing, actually, man.
Yeah, well, that image, I don't know what I don't know what he used to create it, but I kind of use it as sort of my generic image on Twitch, just to
Right.
But like, people are like, oh, this brush steel, texture. Did you create that in Photoshop? Yeah, that's easy to do. You just
Yeah,
need to
get a
know
gradient
how.
going, and yeah.
Um, just like to check up on chat. Yeah, so it can be a great outlet to the creative streaming. Like especially if you've had a bad
Right.
day,
Right.
sort of
And
just.
I've had a couple of those. Yeah. It really does help.
But have you always been an like artist? Do you before you got into working on the computer? Did you draw by hand with
Oh, most
traditional medium?
definitely. Yeah, like actually I didn't start really getting into digital art until maybe like a few years ago, maybe like 2012. And I've been doing digital art ever since. But like before then, I've been drawing since I was 5. So, pencil, paper, color pencils, all that. That's really where I feel at home. But digital art, I do like it because, like, say if you make something too big or too small, it's nothing to shrink it down
Yeah. Well,
or
let's
size
just
it up.
lasso that and
Right,
free
and
transform. There we go.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it really helps with like composing pictures and group pics and everything like that because it's way easier than you having to redraw that whole thing you spent hours on because this doesn't look right in the end result. But I do love like graphite, like pens, pencils. If you see my desk right now, you would see like a billion pencils, a billion pens, a billion micron markers, all that.
Yeah, I've taken a ton of art classes, and I had one teacher who's kind of an asshole say to me like, "Look, not everyone's talents are immediately obvious.
Right.
Maybe you want to keep practicing and see what you can do." And like, I later realized what he was saying is, "Gee, out of everyone in the class, you suck the most." It's like,
Well, not always that, but it's like I will say it's not for everybody.
no.
But that's with anything though.
Well, it's so frustrating for the non-artist who can sit there and visualize in their head what they want to do, but we can't quite figure out how to do it. And I talked to another artist about this once, and I said, "Well, how do you get good?" And then they just said, thousands and thousands of hours of just doing it.
And that is the same answer that everybody will get, including me, because I'm not where I want to be as far as being an artist. Because you always want to do better. You always look at your work and say, "Oh, this crap." But again, you are your own worst critic. And the only way really is to practice, practice, practice. Like me, every week or two, you'll see, or every week, at least once a week on my creatives, I'll just be practicing. And, more so after that, off strain. But yeah, totally. Practice makes perfect, and that's with anything, especially art, because there's a lot to learn.
Well, I could show you some of the early overlays I did when I first started doing streaming on Twitch back in December, and they look like garbage. And again, I feel like my own. And again, believe me, I don't consider myself an artist. I hack in Photoshop, but I've seen some progress over the last 4 or 5 months. Just
Right.
because
Just practicing, yeah.
yeah. And I had someone in stream the other day when I was working on an overlay, and I was like, I had spent half an hour doing something, and I said, you know what, this sucks, and I deleted the whole thing and started over. And they're like, why would you delete it? Why not just fix it? I
Right.
said, no, you don't understand. It's okay. That was half an hour spent learning that I know that isn't going to work.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I kind of get it. Not that I.
Yeah, it's times when I get frustrated, like I can't get that certain pose down, I can't get this right, and I'll just rage quit and just start over from scratch. And I think that's normal for people, because nothing's gonna come out the way you want it the first time. It's again with anything, but I've totally had those moments, man, where you just hit that delete button, hit new page, and just
Yeah, you just have to take it as I learned what didn't work.
right, right.
One of the few streamers, well, I shouldn't say few. One of the few streamers that I watch a lot is Bob Ross. Do you know there's a Bob Ross channel?
Yeah, I follow it also.
Yeah, I was watching it the other night. as I was falling asleep, and he said one of the things that's hard for a lot of artists to do is to know when to just stop, just say, okay, this is good, because otherwise you can just keep piddling and ruin your artwork.
Right.
Have you ever had anything like that happen when you're?
I've had numerous things like that to where I was like, well, this isn't dark enough. Me darken it up. Me reshade this, reshade that, and all of a sudden it's ruined. And especially like with more so with paper, because like you can only erase so many times before it doesn't go away. And I've ruined numerous pictures like that, so I totally understand. And plus, like, as far as the piddling thing, like, that is totally me, because I will sit there and be done with the picture, but like sit there for 30 minutes just saying, like, do I want to fix this? Do I want to leave it like it is? And ultimately I just say, forget it. I'll come back to it if I want to fix it. Just stop. Don't touch it right now.
Yeah. And another thing you said, we're our own worst critics, really.
Right.
Whenever you create anything, you're always going to be very critical of it. I mean, right now, I hate how sort of pixelated my feed looks compared to you. Look all nice and smooth and clean and crisp, and I have issues with my green screen where if I lean back here, my forehead goes blurry, and
oh wow.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, that's with anybody though. Like, I think every streamer is self-conscious about how the stream looks. Because me, I'm always rewatching VODs with like saying like, I don't like how that looks. I don't like how this looks. Maybe change the frame rate, change the opacity on it. Like, I think everybody's like that, especially streamers, especially artists. And if you have it double worse. So, do not feel bad.
Hazmat 1138 brings up the point that he said art is also a perishable skill. He used to draw all the time when he was a kid, but he stopped after he got into high school, and now he doesn't do it at all. That kind of goes along with what we're saying about practicing.
Practice.
Practice. Have you had any experiences with that where people say, "Well, I used to, but now I don't. I can't." Blah blah. Blah.
Yeah, I've had that a lot, and I think that's me a lot because I don't draw as much as I used to. Mm-hmm. Because when you were a kid, like I think you're done with homework, all I would do is just draw, and there was like hours at a time every day, and I found myself being able to draw from memory, from my mind. Nowadays, like since I kind of had got more busy and I can't do it as much, I find myself kind of degrading to where I can't really draw from my mind. I always need a reference, and most like certain things I can't do as well as I could do back then, but I'm trying to build back up to that. But it's definitely like the skill, like art skills can definitely degrade, so to say. But it's always a way to get it back. Like just again, practice, get back on it. And sometimes if you set a schedule for yourself, like an hour a day, or sometimes I'll wake up in the morning, like before I have to get ready for work, and just draw for maybe like an hour or two, and just get it that way, because the more you do it, the more used to it you get. So
scheduling is very big. I was actually just talking to Lassane about this earlier. I really have to put myself back onto a better schedule for streaming. I used to have a very set schedule. I would stream 4 days a week, 2 hours a day, and then those were my scheduled times, and then I would stream for fun whenever I wanted. And as I mentioned earlier, currently my schedule is only Monday nights at 8 o'clock.
Right.
And then whenever else I feel like it. But I really need to get back into the habit of scheduling. So I think it's a very good and I think streaming is, in a way, it is a creative endeavor. If you're doing it right. I mean, there are some people who literally just get on and just play a video game and,
right.
But to interact with your viewers and that takes a little bit of its own skill set.
Right.
And,
it's daunting. Like, and you kind of like with streaming, you have to kind of do it all. Like, if you don't really have an artist, you have to be your own artist. If you kind of the talk show host, you kind of the excellent game player, or maybe the inexcellent if that's the niche you have. You have to be like your own MC, your own, like it's like a lot of jobs that come with streaming that people don't think about. Like, you have to be your own DJ. You have to know how to program a little bit to get X and Y to work. again, art, music, just being a general person, like being charismatic. This again, a skill in itself is to try to be charismatic, even though you maybe had a bad day, but you don't try to let your stream know that you had a bad day.
That can be a
Yeah.
real struggle. I mean, like if I just got done fighting with my wife, and then I'm like, well, back when I had more of a schedule, if I'd have an argument with my wife, and then be like, all right, we'll talk about this later. I have to go stream. Like it's my
Right.
schedule. But then I'd get on and I'd be like, hey, everyone, how's it going? Like, and people would be like, people would see it. They would know instantly.
Right.
They'd be like, well, what's wrong? Why are you so shitty?
Right, and people pick up on that. I've gotten it a couple times too, but yeah. So like that itself, especially if you have a schedule, like I said, schedule. Like I don't want to miss stream because I'm kind of pissed off right now, but I don't want to get on and be like this dead monotone robot. So it's definitely a skill in itself. Is just to be able to put on that strong front.
Yeah. Mira says, well, yeah, don't be dishonest. We want to talk to you about your bad day. And that is one thing that I've
That's
learned.
true too. Yeah.
Is I can get on and be like, it's just money issues, or I had to, I got a flat tire, or my wife and I are having a disagreement about, what we're doing next month. And, 'cause I love my wife. I mean, my wife and I have a great marriage, but marriage is equal.
Marriage,
you
yeah.
argue, and you fight. It just happens, and no matter how wonderful the person is, you're gonna hate the fact that they were picking their teeth while they were talking to her. Like whatever.
Little things, yeah. If you're around a person enough, you're gonna argue about something. It's guaranteed almost. But as long as you can recover from it, I think you all are fine.
And I'm gonna tell you something, Rain. Are you married? Are you in a relationship? Are you single?
Nah, I'm single, but I've been in relationships, so I definitely can understand where you're coming from with that.
Well,
So.
I'm going to tell you a little advice about marriage. You ready? Learn to swallow the little pet peeves. Just they're never going to change them, and if you let it bother you, it's gonna destroy your soul. And I'm gonna give you my number one pet peeve that I had to learn to swallow. Okay, can you describe to me, if you were to go into a kitchen and find a spatula? Can you describe what a spatula looks like?
Yeah, it's like a flat little utensil that you use to flip things over with, like hamburgers and things.
Yes, I agree. However, my wife does not call it a spatula. She calls that a flipper. She calls the rubber folding, folding. I can't even think of the name of it right now. But the rubber folding thing, like it's a wooden handle and it's got a rubber blade on the end,
Oh yeah, yeah.
like a
okay,
scraper.
yeah.
A scraper.
Yeah, scraper. Yeah.
She calls that a spatula. And when we first started living together, she'd be like, hand me a spatula. And I would hand her a spatula. She'd be like, not this, not a flipper, a spatula. I'd be like, that is a spatula. Oh my God.
I
Right.
don't know. Well, I guess maybe like people call it different things, different places, but where I'm from is a spatula, I guess, and then like the rubber thing is scraper, as you would say.
And no matter how many times I've showed her that she's wrong, like we'll go to, like if we're at like Bed Bath & Beyond or Walmart or anywhere, I'll hold up the spatula and I'll say, look, right at the top of the package it says spatula. And then I'll hold up the turner and I'll be like, look, it says turner, it doesn't say spatula. Nope, she won't hear it. And I've had to learn, for the sake of our marriage, to just let that one go.
Yeah, just pick the battles, basically.
Now Chad is arguing who's right and who's wrong, meaning the wife. I love it. Another thing, in my book, you hang toilet paper so it goes backwards over the roll, and she says that I must be a communist for that, and she's a forward over the roll guy.
See, I'm the forward over the world guy too, so I get where she's coming from. That because you have to reach back to pull it forward. I guess for me, I don't know.
Yeah, actually, and there's actually been this has actually been studied. Like someone interviewed like 5,000 people like across the U.S. And it's something like 72% are forwards over the roll. So I'm willing to accept that I'm in the minority on this one. But it's just one of those things. Now people are yelling at me. Listening,
Right.
listening just goes, "My God, Rev, you're a monster." It's just what I'm used to. So yeah, that's my advice. Learn to just let those little things go. Basically, is what I'm saying. I wanna let's get this back on track a little bit. The other day, I came into your stream and you were drawing Tifa from Final Fantasy VII, aka the best Final Fantasy, and we started having. I think the comment I made was Tifa is bae, and you're
Right.
like, yes.
Totally.
But then I started thinking about this later. I'm like, oh, you know what? There are so many great Final Fantasy characters, and
There are.
you know what? Actually, hold on. I'm gonna table the Final Fantasy discussion for 1 second.
Okay.
Before we go into that, you said so. Other than creative streaming, you also do play a lot of retro games, such as the older Final Fantasy games. What are some of the other games that you play? And
okay. Well, as of now, like I do have like a kind of a rotation going. Like so, Fridays, like every Friday, I do a Final Fantasy Friday. So I'm playing through like all of the main series games. It takes forever, but I only made it to number 2. But I play those. I do a lot of GBA games. Like I think I just got done with Shaman King Master Spirits. I don't know if you know his anime game.
I mean, I've seen it like on shelves in game stores back in the day. But I'm sorry, I was having just a little bit of an audio issue. You said playing the old EBA games?
GBA, like Game Boy Advance.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay.
Yeah, I do that. I do like PS2. Like, actually, if I can go into this is actually a funny story about how I actually got into streaming. Is because of retro games. Was basically like back in the day, before next gen, all of this autosave things, you had these things called memory cards, right?
Yes.
Right. So you lose that, and you basically just lost your life right there. So I was over a friend's house, and we were playing like old PS2 games, like we were playing Soul Calibur 2, and like just stuff like that on PS2. And when I got back home, I noticed that card was not in my bag. So like all the games I had, because he didn't know what it was. Like we tore his room apart looking for it. I tore my apartment apart looking for it numerous times, and it's gone.
It's just gone.
So it's just gone. So basically, I had to replay all of those games. So like Onimusha, I think I beat that. Like all of the Devil May Cry, like just a lot of the good PS2 games that you hear so much about that I've 100%ed, I have to redo. And I was like, hey, this be a kind of a fun journey, like to do that on stream and like kind of get people kind of in on the action and everything like that. Because again, it's most of my childhood, most of my teenage years was just that PS2 console, because it was, to me, my favorite console, the greatest console. And yeah, so that's how I actually got into streaming there.
I think the PS2 was the last console I ever purchased for myself.
Oh, really?
Well, okay, yes and no. I mean, I received a Wii for Christmas, like the year that it had come out, and then I ended up buying a second one at a yard sale. So, but I'm after the PlayStation 2. I mean, I looked at the PlayStation 3 and Xbox, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna tap out of the console market. I really just mostly play on my computer. So.
Right.
But man, I agree with you. Some of those PlayStation 2 games, PlayStation 1 games, some of the best games. And Game Boy Advance, my favorite Final Fantasy game was Final Fantasy Tactics, which was a PlayStation 1 game. And then they made Tactics Advanced for the Game Boy Advance, which was amazing also. Not quite as good as Final Fantasy Tactics, but pretty good.
Yeah, we'll get into that, but yeah. Like, I definitely agree with you. Like, this is actually my favorite of the Final Fantasy games.
Is Tactics?
Right. That was the first one I owned, actually. Like, and I didn't know what the heck Final Fantasy was. My mom got it from, like, what the heck is Final Fantasy? And I played Tactics, and then I think I played 8 after that. And I'm like, oh my god, I like Tactics so much. I wish there were more games like this.
Can I just tell you, I almost feel bad for you. It almost sucks that your first experience with the Final Fantasy series was Tactics, because in my opinion, it's the best one. I mean,
Right, and nothing could live up really to it. But I mean, I guess because like the combat system and like the just the movement system was so unique for me because it felt a lot like chess rather than you just hit the attack button, they attack and jump back to the line. Like
right.
you actually have to know placement, know exactly where they face because if you in the wrong spot, they get a critical hit. Like just little things like that kind of made that so awesome. Is just the little details that made into it.
And I actually think I talked with this about talked about this with Lassane very briefly last week too, and she agrees also that she plays the MMO, the Final Fantasy MMO.
I do too. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. 2 weeks in a row, two Final Fantasy. Which one is it? 14.
14. Yeah.
14 players. And are you looking forward to the expansion in June?
Yeah, but I gotta do a lot of grinding to catch up and get ready for it. I know I've been falling off on that, but I'm definitely hyped for Stormblood though.
That's the expansion, I guess.
Yeah, that's the expansion. 14 Stormblood. They bringing out some new classes, level caps, and what have you.
I'm sorry. I'm such a fail. I used to be the biggest MMO guy. Like I played every MMO. Like I started with EverQuest in 1999.
Oh
and
wow!
I was in like the top guild on our server, and my entire guild got invited to World of Warcraft's alpha testing phase before they opened it up for beta, and then I played that, and I beta tested all these other games. Shout out to Puzzle Pirates. That one's for Cortraption when she watches this on YouTube later. Then, dude, I just realized like, oh my god, this is okay. So actually, quick story. Back when I was playing EverQuest, I proposed to my girlfriend. She said yes. We moved in together, and she used to constantly berate me for how much time I was spending on EverQuest. And she eventually cheated on me and left me. And that was one of the things she said as it was my
cause of it.
Yeah, my EverQuest addiction. And but that's okay because you know she wasn't the right one for me anyways. And I met the perfect woman for me, and she actually ended up becoming a lesbian anyways. So you know it was for the best. You know,
right? It worked out.
Yeah. MMOs. So anyways, several of my friends, including Bisk777 in chat, have been telling me, you should try Final Fantasy. And I'm like, would you offer a recovering alcoholic a beer? Because that's what you're doing to me when you're trying to get me into...
Right, just take my life away because it is engrossing.
Yeah. No, I was not a ranger. I used to double box. I was an ogre warrior and a wood elf druid. So just to answer Miris in chat there. So, were there any other retro games you wanted to talk about before we dove really back into Final Fantasy?
Well, not really, because I'm working on reattaining my library, and I'm working on setting more time for retros because I've been kind of deviating away from that. I'm sorry, but I need to set more time up for this. So I haven't really got deep into a lot of them, other than Final Fantasy Fridays and a few GBA games here and there because they're short and sweet and very memorable.
Yeah. Some of those portable games, especially some of the older ones, they really had a surprising amount of depth where they lacked in graphics or sound or whatever. They really made up for in gameplay.
Yeah, like replayability definitely because a 30 or a 3-hour game that you're gonna beat, but they added so much stuff that you want to go back to it.
Yeah, and you were mentioning Pokemon earlier, so I'm assuming you're a fan of the Pokemon genre and games. And
yes and no. I would say second gen is my favorite. That's when they, after the initial hype and wave of the first 150 that everybody was on in America, they made another round of them, which is the second gen. That was my favorite. I think my first Pokemon game was Silver, and I still own it to this day. I got it for my birthday. But the newer games, I didn't really get into other than X and Y. So I played all of them really, but third gen it was okay. Fourth gen I kind of fell off on it. Then I got back into it in X and Y, but I haven't got Sun and Moon just yet because really there is so much stuff they've added in so many Pokemon I can't even keep track anymore. Even though I love Pokemon, they add so many, they change it up, they change up the gameplay so much with each game almost that it's daunting.
So going back to 1999 again, I got in on the Pokemon craze when it
Right.
first hit, and this was first generation, and the cartoon just came out. I keep looking at my beard, thinking there's something in my beard, but no, it's just gray hair. I keep
Yeah, I'm
thinking,
doing the same. Like I'm just swiping. Like,
yeah,
is
is
this?
that food in my beard? No, I'm just old. Um, I used to have this thing when I was back then. The show came on at like 6 in the morning, and I would wake up like at 5 minutes to 6, go downstairs, brew up a pot of coffee, and sit on my recliner and like smoke 2 cigarettes as I watched Pokemon for 30 minutes and sort of woke up
Right.
but then I fell off after they started introducing new, like I never got into second
Get
gen
back
or third
into
gen.
it,
No, Snorlax was always my favorite because I could identify with a big fat guy that just wanted to sleep. I was like, I get it.
Right.
I totally get it. But the reason I brought up Pokemon is like the Pokemon Red and Blue and Yellow was the first generation game,
Right.
and that was one of those. That's what I'm talking about. The game was so simple, it was so basic, but there's still people playing it on Twitch to this day.
To this day, yeah.
Like they'll have like 1,000 people watching them play this game.
Much like what was it? I know Twitch did one like was it Twitch plays Pokemon Red, and they had like the where you could kind of choose the movements and everything that kind of crashed the servers a couple times. I definitely remember that. I did love that. And yeah, like it's like those little things like that simple game. You collect these Pokemon, you battle them, you trade them, and it had so much depth to it that people could still come back to it to this day. And again, like newer games, like current gen games, you beat them one time, you're never gonna touch them again.
Yeah,
Because they don't have any replayability. Once you get the trophies, you don't touch it anymore. Or once you kind of beat the story, you don't touch it. Or if multiplayer gets stale, you don't touch it. So,
and that is a shame. And so I was recently talking with one of the other streamers. So there's a game called Persona, and
Excellent.
and thank you
New
very much to
heroes
Captain Chaos 22 for the follow. Big ups. Whoop whoop. Thank you very much.
follow hype.
Yeah. I give out big ups to everyone who follows me, and that's going to make Mirius so happy. He loves the big ups. But apparently, what the creators of Persona, this company, Atlas Games, they
Right.
have actually put out a thing saying you can stream our game, but don't stream past chapter or day 5 or something in the game, or chapter 5 or something like that, because they know that that game is entirely story based.
Right.
And if it gets ruined for people, they're not going to buy it. They're not going to play it.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
and
Well, at least they caught on to it though, so I guess that's a big up to them, I suppose. But it is kind of a downside. People who can't really afford to get the game, but I do see where they're coming from because, like, I've played the Persona games and they are awesome, and the story is the main thing that keeps you going because you want to play, you want to see like what's gonna happen this next chapter. Like after I beat this boss, what's gonna happen after that? What's gonna like? And again, the story is a big part of this. So if it's ruined, you're not really gonna want to play it.
yeah.
So,
But you know what games have a lot of replayability, even once you know the story, is the Final Fantasy games.
definitely.
We're down to 10 minutes left, and I don't know if we're gonna be able to get through this. I'm just gonna real quick go. I started with the very first Final Fantasy on the NES.
Wow.
Loved it. I missed a couple of them because they weren't released in America, but I played through every one that I could get.
Yeah.
In my opinion, Final Fantasy was the 7 was the best. But did you play Final Fantasy X and X2?
I didn't play the advanced games. You said X as in 10,
10,
or?
yeah.
Oh yeah. I played. Actually, I started with 10 too because I didn't know at the time. I didn't know that was a sequel. So like me with that, like I love 10 too. I know a lot of people don't because the story is kind of cheesy. But the battle system is so amazing because not a lot of Final Fantasy games let you actually switch jobs in battle. Because that was like the biggest thing for me, like you could switch jobs in battle because it kind of reminded me of how Tactics was. It was very job-based, job-oriented, and you change jobs on the fly. You bring your troops with you in a certain job class. So I like that aspect of it, and then I went back and played 10, and the fact that it was kind of turn-based kind of turned me off of 10 because I kind of knew the story of it. I knew kind of how it ended, and it wasn't as fast-paced as X2. So I actually like X2 better than 10. So shoot me for that.
You have made me a very happy man tonight because I got so much shit for saying how much I loved X2. X2 is possibly my second or third favorite game of the series. So obviously Tactics is number one.
Right.
Final Fantasy VII will always be gold in my heart.
Right.
But then after that, I loved X2. I thought it was so great for all the reasons you just said. And at the time that came out, it got shit on. Everyone's like, oh, it's Barbie dress up. Oh, you get to play with 3 women and watch them changing clothes. I'm like, you are, if that is what you're focusing on, you are missing 99% of the game.
Right.
You will never hear any hatred for X2. In fact, I sold my PlayStation 2 to someone. And I said, okay, the only thing is I'm keeping Final Fantasy X and X2. And they're like, why are you keeping just those games? I go, I don't know. In case I ever run an emulator on my PC, I want those games. I need to keep them. They're still sitting on my shelf.
I still have my PS2 copies as well as all the remakes they put out for it also. So I definitely understand. But I love X2. Like, that was like my first PS2 Final Fantasy game. And I held on to it to this day. Like I said, 10, I like it. It's very story-based. But X2, replayability, if you want that, awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that there is like a new game plus mode in X2, and there wasn't a lot of new game plus modes when that game came out. I think Final Fantasy X was the first. Don't quote me for the love of God, but I think Final Fantasy X was the first Final Fantasy game to come out with a new game plus mode. So
actually, no, I don't think 10 had new game. I think 10-2 was the first with new game plus because I know X, once you beat it, and you get. I think the only thing you get to import over is the Albed language, so you can kind of watch the cutscenes again while knowing what they're saying. But other than that, they didn't have where you import your levels or your equipment and things.
I mean, my memory is crap, so
it's okay.
You're probably right. But my point stands. It was one of the very first games to ever have New Game Plus. It gave it so much more replayability, and let's say you played through with Rain as mostly a tanky character, then maybe play her through as a mage character. Legendary Gaming 555 asks, what do you think about the Final Fantasy VII remake?
I'm super hyped for it, and I know people are kind of ragging on it because, they're used to, I guess, 15. They want an action-oriented game, and it doesn't look like that so far. Because what I'm thinking they're going to do with that is they're going to have it how... I don't know if you played a Crisis Core?
No.
Okay. Basically what that is, you move with it, but you still have a delay, kind of wait time because the actions have a startup time on them. So you still have a kind of a wait system, but it's not really like Kingdom Hearts, but it's not really FF7. So it's kind of like that in between. And people are kind of ragging on that because, it's going to be like that. But I'm super hyped for it. I've been waiting on this forever. When I first saw the E3 trailer, when they kind of did it, I was like, is that Cloud? It's Cloud. Oh my god! Are they actually gonna do another movie? No, remake, flat out.
They did, they did a movie about it. What was it? Final Fantasy Spirits Within, I think, was the final. It's a movie that was based on Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, Advent Children, yeah.
Yeah. I would be okay if the Final Fantasy VII remake got rid of Cat Safe altogether. I could do without Cat Safe.
Yeah, he wasn't my favorite either. I'll say.
Are you sad as console only? I'm sad, but when you become a person that says, okay, this is it, I'm going to just play Xbox, or I'm just going to play PlayStation, or I'm just going to do PC, which in my case it's PC. You come to terms with the fact there are going to be amazing games that you can't play.
Right.
So to answer your question, a little sad. But the other thing too is, there have been these games where they're like, oh, this is going to be an Xbox exclusive or whatever, And then 5-10 years down the road, they port it.
Right.
I mean,
like,
they just did with Bayonetta, and that
yeah,
was
I was gonna
supposed.
say Bayonetta.
Yeah.
What else? I know at one point was it Rise of the Tomb Raider, the second one in the reboot. It was Xbox exclusive. So like after like a year or so, they put it on the other system. So
Yeah.
so
I mean, the whole reason for the exclusivity is to try to sell that console.
right,
And once that game is no longer, the hot
relevant.
game, there's no reason to keep it as an exclusive.
Right.
So I'm not too worried about that. Oh my god, I always tell everyone that comes on, the first 7 minutes take longer than the next 53 minutes. Dude, we're down to the last 5 minutes here.
Right. And it's been totally fine.
And it's been great talking with you. But let me ask, I want to give you a chance. Was there anything you wanted to talk about or plug or
Oh,
anything specifically? Because we can keep talking Final Fantasy right up until the
we
last 5
definitely
seconds.
can.
But
Yeah, we definitely can. But no, man, just like if you want to like a variety retro art streamer to watch, I guess just check me out. You've already plugged. I guess you plugged my whatever's my links.
Yeah, it's been above your head the whole time. I really highly recommend everyone make sure you follow RaineKugami on Twitch. You got to check him out. Just stop in while he's drawing. It's really great. Or if you like retro gaming, he as we've talked, you got to toss him a follow. He's a member of Team MZ. For those of you who are Team MZ members, I think we got 1 or 2 Team MZ members. Team MZ.
What?
Yeah, I MZ was in earlier today, and
I missed her.
she was, when I was playing Diablo, so she came and was hanging out for a little while. But yeah, okay, so. We'll make sure we give you a big plug right before we go offline, but we only got a few more minutes. Bisque says, my favorite thing about Final Fantasy VII was the materia system. And I wouldn't say that was my favorite thing, but it is something that I've loved about the Final Fantasy games is they come up with these new systems and then they're willing to just completely drop them in later to try experimenting with new things. But the materia system, man, that did work out so well.
Added a lot of depth to it. You could level it up. I think you could not fuse it, but you could combine them to get like better spells and everything.
And if you got it to max like rank, you could split it so you'd have a second one that you could start leveling up.
Right.
It was pretty intense. Knights of the Round was overpowered though.
Very much so. But again, Ruby Weapon and Emerald Weapon, all of them, they could go somewhere to the deepest bowels of where. I hated fighting them, and I don't think I've ever beaten them actually. Like I don't think I've ever actually beaten them.
Really?
Yeah, it's like that was one of those super bosses. I was just like, you know what, this is you can have this here.
Oh, Impulse Skink shows up at the very end. Just so you know, Impulse, I did not get a chance to work on your overlay today. I ended up playing Diablo instead of creative streaming. But since you're not paying me and it's free, you can wait, chump. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up with a big plug. Please, if you haven't already, and by the way, Rain, if you're watching my stream, just say hey to everyone in chat real quick. Just type hey, and then that way they can click on your name and follow you. Go ahead, toss Rain a follow. Like I said, he's worth checking out. Even if you're not really into retro games, check him out for the creative. He's really entertaining, and he interacts. The 2 times I popped in, he interacts. So definitely worth a big check out. Now, you said you checked out my podcast, so this may or may not come as a surprise to you. But what we're gonna do here is we're gonna end on the last word. Rain, last word goes to you, my friend. What's the last word?
I don't know. I don't know. I guess like art is life, and life is art, and we will end it.
Yeah, I love dropping that on people unexpected. So
yeah, art is
for
life.
RaineKugami and I'm Rhev. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you all real soon. Have a great night, everyone. Bye bye.
All right, take care.